Welcome to the Chapters and Chai Book Club.
I'm Amanda.
And I'm Francesca, and we're two sisters who absolutely love reading, but we do have pretty opposite book styles.
So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let's turn some pages together.
Yay! So today we are having matcha lattes, as always.
As always.
But with a twist. Today we have some strawberry syrup in here to make it a bit more spring vibes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've never tried it with strawberry syrup. I like that.
That's good.
That is good.
That's nice.
Yum. It's like a dessert.
Yes. That is my cup of tea. So, to start off the video, today we're going to be baking some lemon raspberry rolls. And we got the recipe from an Instagram channel that is called
In Bloom Bakery.
In Bloom Bakery. And we're going to add the link to that and the recipe to the description box below.
Yeah, it looks really yummy. I hope we can execute.
I'm so excited.
It's a bit more of a complicated recipe from our last baking video.
Yeah, definitely. So there are going to be some pauses with letting the dough rise and things like that.
Today we're doing another deep dive video on a Christian book. For today's video we're doing Practicing the Way by John Mark Comer, who is a New York Times best-selling author, and it's a book about how it is to be an apprentice to Jesus. Obviously the content is Christian, so we understand if you're not Christian and you're not interested in sticking around. We do make other videos about non-Christian fiction books, so feel free to find those.
Yes.
But yeah, for today we will be discussing the book. We have read about a third of the book so far, so we'll be discussing our thoughts on the first third, and we'll be probably making follow-up videos to the remaining book as well.
Yes. So I think we should probably start with the baking, because if you watched our previous baking video, we could not concentrate on talking and baking at the same time.
Yeah.
We were completely useless with that. So
let's start with the first step. So I know the first step is to make the raspberry jam. That's going to be the filling of the rolls. Okay, so this first step is to add about 340 grams of raspberries into a medium saucepan. And we'll be cooking this on medium heat for about 5 to 7 minutes while mashing it up. Essentially, it starts off by giving a little bit of history on what it meant to be a student of a rabbi. And what it was is these students, they would follow their rabbis, they would study their ways, they would adopt their ways, and then eventually they would become rabbis themselves. What John wrote this book about is essentially arguing that as followers of Christ, we should see it the same way. Jesus is our rabbi, and we should be doing the same. So we should be following his ways, adopting his ways, and then eventually becoming like him.
Yeah.
So that's essentially what the book is about.
And it also kind of makes a distinction between what does it mean to be, because nowadays everyone says I'm a Christian, for instance, but that doesn't necessarily mean the same thing it used to mean when Jesus was alive or right after his death, because then people that were called Christians were the people who were Jesus's apprentices, who were basically, who believed that Jesus was their rabbi and they wanted to become like him and live like him and act like him. So nowadays saying you're a Christian doesn't mean that you actually want to adopt, that way of life.
Yeah, it was way more. It was way more about actually your whole life being about becoming like Jesus rather than just going to churches on Sundays or whatever it is.
There's a big difference in having that lifestyle rather than just following some rules.
Yeah.
And I think the book will be mainly talking about that and the difference between
the two. Yeah.
Okay. I think this is ready to be sieved.
Yes. So we can lower the heat
fully.
Yeah, all the way down, all the way to 0. Now we're going to just sieve the raspberry, remove the seeds.
It's supposed to look like this, basically.
Yeah. And then we're going to bring the juice back into the saucepan. That smells so good.
Yeah, I love the smell of raspberry.
Wow.
Okay.
And Jesus himself, he does say it during the Sermon on the Mount. He says, "Everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain came down, streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell with a great crash." So again, he's using the word practice, which is a very active word.
Yeah, that you need to do as he said and as he live as he lived. And I think many churches don't necessarily talk about that as much. It's more about you need to pray, you need to read your Bible, you need to go to church, and after that you are saved, basically. And what saved means is, well, many people believe that salvation means that you go to heaven, and that's kind of the end goal. Whereas the book talks about that salvation for Jesus meant more about this continual transformation of your character and of your heart.
Yeah.
And you can have salvation on earth, and you can see that already during your life through the transformation that you will have as a follower of Jesus.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to be adding now the juice back into the pan, and then we're going to add half a teaspoon of cornstarch or flour in our case, and around third of a cup sugar. Okay, sugar goes in.
Nice.
And flour. Give that a little whisk. And then we're going to return this on the heat. And I think we're going to heat it up for around 10
minutes, 10 to 13 minutes over medium heat.
All right, so we're going to do that.
Nice. So as the book talks about basically living like Jesus and following his way, it also talks about how many people don't do that, and they don't want to do that because it's something that's difficult. And something that actually Jesus said in the Bible is that Jesus says, "Enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction." And how I take that is that following Jesus is difficult. It's entering through the narrow gate, whereas the larger gate, where everyone goes through, where the world goes through, where culture goes through, that's the easy choice. It's the easier choice to follow what the culture says, what other people do.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but eventually that takes you further and further away from God, and it also leads to destruction, because many of the ways of the world lead you to sin, and then sin leads you to death and destruction. So that's interesting.
And it's interesting because he said that over 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, and it's still the case today.
Yeah, I feel like it's even more the case today.
It definitely is with everything that's going on. Yeah, it's so easy to follow the world and follow the trends and what other people do, but that's not always the way of Jesus.
And connected to that, something that actually the author says I think it's within the first few pages, is about how this world is full of agendas, right? It's full of agendas from marketing, from pop culture, from politics, whatever it is. There are a lot of different agendas going on, and I think it is naive to think that a person is not influenced by anything, that they're completely in charge of their own thoughts and opinions. And he says in the book that every single person, whether they're religious or not, they're
led by something.
They're led by something, and they're in a way apprenticing under someone or something.
We are so easily influenced by things of around us. A big part of us is built through the things that we have around us, through our friend groups, the things or the people that we follow, through our family, all these things. So we are just a product of our surroundings, basically, most of the times. So what you surround yourself with is also going to determine what you're going to be like. And
exactly.
I talked about this a little bit in one of our previous videos, is that I studied marketing, and all marketing was about, all we were taught, especially in consumer behavior, it was all about the psychology people have when it comes to their identity. So the way you sell something to someone most of the times has to do with who they want to be as a person. So I don't know, you tell them that you target groups based on their, like, who they are and who they want to be, which parts of themselves they want to show to the world.
It shows that, obviously, I'm assuming these companies, they want to influence you into thinking that you want to become someone that uses their product. So then all the advertising, which in today's world a lot of influencers are doing the advertising and people that we follow are doing the advertising, they are advertising with the agenda of influencing you to become a certain version of yourself.
Yeah. Like there was actually a campaign, now I don't remember the exact specifics, it was a case study that we were looking over, that happened in the 30s, I think, when a big cigarette company wanted to start advertising, and they created a campaign for women, and they decided, let us try and get more women to smoke, because at that point women didn't smoke as much as men. So what they did is that they connected smoking cigarettes to being a strong woman. If you smoked, if you were kind of the like odd one out and you smoked, you were a strong woman. And
Interesting.
It worked so well, and then all women started smoking as well.
Wow,
Yeah, isn't that influence crazy? Also with diamonds, getting a diamond ring when you get engaged. It was a marketing campaign by a diamond company. So then there are so many things like this, that the fact that you have to have bacon and eggs in the morning was due to a marketing campaign that a company that sold bacon, I think, they created that, and now it's like a part of our culture.
Wow.
So we are influenced so much more than we actually could even ever imagine.
Yeah.
So we need to be careful of the things that we let have a hold on us, basically.
Yeah, like I think whether you're a Christian or not, I think it's good to take moments to reevaluate and think about what are the things that influence you and what are the things that are shaping you today into who you are. And yeah, just what do you consume, who are you following, who are you looking up to in general, and how that is affecting you.
I think a great way to check that is to see what are the things that you prioritize in your everyday life, what are the things that you want to be doing, and then ask yourself, why am I doing this? And if the reason behind is something because you want to be more like some person, then check that person, like, why do you want to be more like that person? And is that actually something that's healthy for me? Is that actually something that glorifies God? Or is that maybe an unhealthy influence that you might have on yourself? So
exactly.
that's how
And in the end, there are great people out there to want to aspire to be like. But what the book talks about, and what I personally believe, is obviously there's no person greater than God. And it says, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And the word way is directly translated, if you see the Greek word, it's the word odos, which means road or path. So it says literally, Jesus is the path.
Yeah, it is the path of our life that we should
be walking. Which I find cool.
Yeah, I think so. There were many different moments in the book where he would kind of explain the Greek words behind the words that we use today in English. And it would give so much more context. I think it's important, and something I want to do at some point, because, it's a lot, but it's important to try and understand when you read the Bible, for instance. It's great to understand the actual meaning behind the words that were used, because now the versions we read are translations. So a lot of the context also, as well as the historical context, is missing. So we read it and we take it for like face value. But if you go deep in, you get so much more understanding of what everything means. No, it's interesting. Okay, so I've taken it off the heat, and it's
a lot thicker now. It's more of a jam consistency, which is what we want. And now what we'll do is we're going to reserve around 2 tablespoons from here that's going to be used in the frosting. So I'll just put that in a bowl. Okay, so now we'll leave that off heat and we're going to move on to making the actual dough of the rolls. Okay, so this is what the dough should look like. It's kind of a ball on its own. Yeah. And what you now need to do is you need to get a large bowl, have it greased up, and you're going to transfer the dough into the bowl, and we're going to cover it up and
let it rise.
Let it rise about an hour and a half until it's double in size.
Okay, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's not sticking to the bowl.
Yeah, not at all. Okay, and then covering it up. We're back. As you can see, it is dark now. We have let the dough rise for an hour and a half by now, I think.
Yeah, closer to 2 hours actually.
Yeah. And yeah, the next step is to make the lemon raspberry filling. For that, we're going to be mixing half a cup of unsalted butter, again very softened, half a cup of brown sugar, half a cup of white sugar, 2 tablespoons of lemon zest, 1 tablespoon of fresh lemon juice, half a teaspoon of salt, and a 1/4 cup of the raspberry jam from above.
Open. Not this.
No, that's for the frosting.
Is this not the frosting?
No, this is the filling.
Oh.
I did just say that.
This smells amazing.
It looks really good.
Yeah.
It's the raspberry, the lemon, the sugar.
The butter.
Wow. The next part of the book is the first goal in the book, which is to be with Jesus. And that's the goal we'll talk about today. We're not going to go into the other goals in this video because, as you can see, it's getting late. But essentially, it talks about the first part of apprenticeship, as we talked about the rabbis and their students. The first things those students would do would be to actually be with the rabbi. Taste test? But you got a full lemon peel, so that's going to be very lemony.
That's good though.
It's good.
Oh, it tastes like summer.
Pink. This is great, like if you're looking for a Valentine's Day. Let me smell. It smells like butter.
So good.
Okay, so now the tricky part. We have our dough. Let's see what it's looking like. Wow. That is
success.
You know what we do next?
We have to like
punch it. You want to do the honors? You just punch once. Whoa, that was a bit aggressive.
Sorry.
Okay.
Ooh.
And now you want probably some sort of surface. We're going to be rolling it into a rectangle. I'm assuming it will help to have a little bit of flour on the surface. So let's sprinkle a little bit.
Yeah, so that it doesn't stick.
Yeah.
So to continue talking about the book, it's basically divided into 3 goals that you have as the apprentice of Jesus. And we're going to talk about the first one, which is to be with Jesus. And we're going to probably talk about the other 2 goals in our next videos. And basically, he explains in his book what it means to be with Jesus. And he gives some practical advice also what that means in your everyday life.
It kind of goes back to what we were saying about the rabbis. So the students, they would first start their kind of learning curve by actually following and spending time with the rabbi. It's very important because, for example, if you're in a situation and you don't know what to do and you want to do something that your rabbi or Jesus would do, for you to know what Jesus would do is by knowing Jesus. And to know Jesus, you need to spend time with him. Like with any other person, if you want to know a person, you need to spend time with them.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only way you would
It's logical.
That's the only way how you can understand what they would do and what they would want you to do. Maybe need some flour on top.
Yeah, it's very sticky.
Yeah. So the book goes into the importance of abiding in Jesus, and it uses again the original word that was used in Greek in the Bible, which is meno. And meno means to live in something. Like if you say, I live there, you say meno εκεί. So that really helped me understand what abide actually means. It's to live in Christ, to really be united with Him.
And doesn't the word meno also mean to like stay? If you say, oh, I'm staying here, you use that same word in Greek.
Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah.
So that really helps put context in what abide in means. And
it is the continuous staying in communication with the Holy Spirit, right? It's not like, oh, I'm gonna only speak to Jesus for 5 minutes in the morning or when I go to church. It's instead you live in a communication with Him throughout the whole day.
Yeah, definitely. And that makes a huge difference in your relationship with Him and in understanding Him.
So once you have it laid out as a rectangle, you then want to start spreading the raspberry lemon filling.
So one interesting action step that the book actually gives you is it asks you, what do you do when you have quiet little moments in your day-to-day? And it talks about the importance of using that quiet time to spend it with Jesus.
Yeah, and also I think this is the same spot where he says, where does your mind automatically go in those moments that you would normally recharge? So say you're having like a stressful day at work and then you get 5 minutes to kind of just zone out. Where does your mind go? Does it go to social media? Does it go to thinking about
your relationships, the drama you heard of before, the gossip?
We all have a place that we use as sort of our recharging space, let's say, in our mind, where we like go automatically.
So he calls you to, instead of picking up your phone and scrolling on your social media, to actually think about Jesus and talk to Jesus and pray and really spend some quality quiet time with Him.
And hey, it's not gonna happen automatically straight away. It is a habit that you have to
you have to build.
Yeah, you have to build it. You have to practice it. It's not something that comes naturally necessarily.
Yeah, it's a muscle you need to train. And it talks about how like even the moments when you're stuck at traffic or when you are waiting in line at the supermarket or when you have these little moments that you are not really doing anything, what do you think about? Are you thinking about your stress and the things that you're nervous about or the things that you have to do? Or like, what do you fill your mind with in those moments? Like, really look into that. And usually it's the things that we think about in those moments that really shape our moods and like eventually who we are as people and how we behave. So
it's true.
Yeah.
It's so true. And the more you practice going into that place of instead talking to Jesus for those 5 minutes, the more then it's going to become more of a way of living that then throughout the whole day you're constantly in communication with Jesus or the Holy Spirit. And that's what as a Christian we want to
do.
In general, the concept of quiet time is an important part of what he says a Christian should do, because that's something that Jesus did. And again, we want to follow His way and what He does. And if you read the Gospels, you'll see that He constantly would retreat by Himself and go pray by Himself and spend time with God alone. That was a constant thing that He did. It was a habit of His. He fully did that as His practice. So that is something that as a Christian we should try and emulate.
Build,
Build and do. Maybe we should explain what quiet time means in case somebody's not sure. Quiet time is essentially finding, or what's useful is finding your own spot. That is where you're going to go and spend time with God. It might be a specific room in your house. It might be a closet. It might be your car, wherever it is.
Yeah.
Somewhere where you can go and have sort of an appointment with God. And you go and you just spend time with him. You sit, you talk, you listen, be quiet, hence the name, and just soak in your time with God. It's so important to spend time with him. He wants to spend time with us.
Yeah, he does.
And it's such a vital part of growing your faith. I think both of us, we have been lukewarm Christians, which essentially means Christians that believe but don't really
make it a lifestyle.
Yeah.
I'd say.
Yeah, it's not a lifestyle, just something we believe in theory. But what really changed that for me was when I started spending time with him, because that's when I started actually hearing his voice and actually understanding that there's a real person. It's not just a metaphorical God. He was an actual person that I got to know. And the more I spend time with him, the more I know him, and the more I fall in love with him, essentially. The more I want to spend time with him. And it's so important.
Yeah, no, it's very important. And as I was saying, it's like, it might be weird, it might be hard at the beginning, but the more you do it, the more you just take those 5 minutes in the morning and spend time with him, the more you will also start craving it, and it will become a part of your life, and it will become a habit that you build. And now I've reached a spot where if I don't have my quiet time with God, I don't feel good for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
I crave it. I need it. First thing in the morning, before I scroll on my phone, before I watch anything, before I get ready for work, I get up, make my tea, take my Bible, sit down, and I pray, I read a Christian book, and I really try to start my day with just soaking in God's love.
Yeah.
And it just fills my day with such peace and patience, and it reminds me of who I want to be and who I want to be like it reminds me of the things that I want to grow in, the characteristics and the fruit of the Spirit. And then my day
changes everything.
It changes so much. Like, you have to do it and you'll see, I promise.
Yeah, no, really. It might sound, if you've never done it, it might sound like we're just telling you what we're making up a story. But truly, you will hear from God when you do that, and you will get to know him. And that in turn is going to change you. You're going to, the way my life and I have transformed since I started doing that, it's just it works. There's no arguing against it when you yourself have experienced it. I have spread the raspberry filling. It's looking very cute. And now what we need to do is we need to roll this into a log. So from the long side of the rectangle, we begin rolling very tightly. Now this is always
tricky.
The tricky part for me whenever I make cinnamon rolls. All right, we have rolled it into a log. We did the best we could.
It's not the prettiest, but...
Then we need a very sharp knife, or you can use dental floss as well for this, and cut off both of the ends, because those pieces are not gonna be pretty. And then we want to cut this up into 12 pieces. Then you want to have a casserole dish that's already been greased. We're just using this here, and we're going to be putting the rolls
in there.
We're going to be putting the rolls in here. Now, these are not the most perfect of swirls, but I'm sure they'll taste just as good.
They will taste excellent. Okay, we need a photo of this. Not every baking journey can be a good one. A beautiful one.
So we decided to get a second casserole dish just to give them a bit more space because they were pretty tightly packed. Next step is to get room temperature heavy cream. And you want to drizzle it in between the rolls that are hopefully individual rolls. Around 60 ml it said, so I'm gonna just drizzle it wherever there's a bit of pocket of space. And now we will cover it with some cellophane and let them double in size. So again, about an hour. And at that point, we're going to put them in the oven. You want to preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 175 Celsius. And then once the rolls have proofed, you put them in and you bake them for 22 to 25 minutes or until a light golden color.
So one thing about quiet time is, like, obviously we all like to, it's easier to sit down and kind of talk to God and tell him about your day and tell him about the things that you want and ask for different blessings. But something that is important is to actually sit in silence with God and to try and hear from him. And this is something that I really still to this day struggle to do, because whenever I try that, I just sit down and my mind starts racing with all the different things from my day, all the things that I need to do, all the things that are going on in my life in general. And I feel like it's so hard to just quiet your mind down.
It is.
Yeah.
It is the hardest thing. I'm the exact same way. If I'm even a little bit stressed out or anxious and I try to sit and just be quiet, I'll like catch myself after 5 minutes and I'm thinking about something completely different. I'm like, oh no, bring the mind back to God, and then it like goes again and I'm like, no, bring it back. It's hard. It's really hard.
It is so hard, yeah.
Is there anything that has helped you with that, or just practice?
With that, it's practice. You just gotta do it. Stick doing it every day. Try to have a little bit of that time and just try and remind yourself and train your mind to just sit in God's presence. Just stop thinking about the world.
Yeah, exactly. Something that helps me sometimes is I'll put on some worship music or ambient like worship music to try and help me get into that mindset. And you can find on YouTube a lot where there's like no lyrics or anything that might distract you,
just
and
the
then
instrumental.
And then you have that going in the background that kind of helps you focus on thinking about that. But it is, in the end, it's practice. It's a form of meditation in a way. Something you might want to do is find a specific scripture to meditate on, and then just kind of think about that scripture and really let that soak into your heart. That's something that can help. But it is difficult in today's world to quiet your mind.
Absolutely, yeah. With the way we have no attention spans anymore, like it's become so much. It becomes worse and worse. The media that we consume has become so short. And I see that in myself. When I'm on TikTok, for instance, if a video is more than 60 seconds, sometimes even it needs to be even less than that, I get bored. I loses my interest, it loses my attention, and I just keep on scrolling. So I think that's why it's also so hard. It's even harder today to then take that time and prioritize sitting in literal quiet and try and not think about anything at all except for God. Yeah,
it is. And actually he ties his last part of that chapter has to do with hurry, and he's written a whole book on the ruthless elimination of hurry, which it talks about the importance of stilling, and literally you need to make it into an active effort of eliminating the hurry in your life.
To slow down.
This world is going at a pace that we weren't created to go at. It goes way too fast. And if you think about Jesus and the way he lived back in the time, first of all, he walked everywhere. That means
he took his time.
He walked, and what that allows when you go at that pace of walking is it allows people to stop and talk to him, or him to stop and talk to people and actually do these things that he would have never been able to do or realize had he been like running.
Yeah.
You know,
It gives you
taking his time.
Yeah, it gives you the time to think about your next steps and your actions and of your life. Because when you're hurrying, you make decisions like that. So, which is not always great. You end up making many things that you were not supposed to make. You end up making mistakes. And it really doesn't, like, the way the world goes right now, the pace that it goes at, it doesn't teach us patience and just, like, chilling.
Yeah,
Not
exactly.
at all.
And what I believe, what the Bible says, is that we're created in God's image, meaning we, in the end, are like him. And he took a day to rest when he created the world. If God took time to rest, then why aren't we?
Yeah, exactly.
And actually, rest is a big gift that God has given us. And taking a Sabbath is a gift. And it's something that my husband and I actually have started implementing, because it is so important to have a dedicated day where you truly rest, to the point where you don't even do, the laundry, you don't clean the house, because oftentimes, you'll get your weekends off work, but then you clean the house, you go grocery shopping, all these things, which I get it. We all need to do those things.
Yeah.
But if you dedicate a day that is all about resting and all about doing things that you love, take that time to
Feed your soul.
As we talked about in another deep dive, and really just do things that feed you, things that re-energize. That's something that is a biblical advice for us to do. It's something that God did, and we've noticed with Barna, we love our Sabbath, we love our day off, where we really just, we know on that day, even if the house is a mess, we're going to leave it. Even if there's laundry piling up, we leave it, we do it the next day. It's fine. The world hasn't fallen from us doing that. If anything, we just feel way better, actually. There's a quote by a person called Dallas Willard, who says that essentially hurry is the great enemy of spiritual life in our day. That is, it's pretty much what we've been saying, but you cannot have a spiritual life if you're in a hurry. You need to, by default, if you want to say yes, if you want to say yes to Jesus, you need to be saying no to other things. You need to find that quiet time. You cannot be with Jesus while you're doing 100 million other things. And actually, being the follower of Jesus doesn't mean that you're taking up more things to do. It means you're taking up less things to do. You're letting some things go.
That's something I've been really, really struggling with lately. I've been very busy with work and with my hobbies, that I've had such a hard time prioritizing having even just a day where I do absolutely nothing. And I noticed the effects of that so quickly. It's been like this for 2 months now, and I am drained. And I just feel the effects of not being able to slow down, how it really affects the way I think, it affects the way I work. It affects my mood so strongly. I am grumpy half the time, and I keep thinking, when will I be able to just sit down and relax?
Yeah.
And it just shows how we need to prioritize that as humans. If you're not feeling good, maybe sit down and look, am I taking that day of rest? Am I slowing down? Do I have those moments in my week?
And it's not something, you do need to actually prioritize it, because it does mean you have to say no to something. Should we make the cream cheese frosting now, so it's ready to go? Okay, so for the frosting, we're going to need about 6 tablespoons of soft butter. We're going to be mixing this on high speed until it's pale and fluffy. Now we'll be adding 170 grams of cream cheese, using Philadelphia for this. Now mixing that. So next we need a cup of powdered sugar, and we're going to sift it in slowly by slowly. Okay, next we're adding lemon zest from 1 lemon. The recipe asks for half a lemon, but I just zested a whole lemon. And then the remaining raspberry jam that we put aside earlier. And it says to mix it first at low, and then after that you mix it on high until it gets really fluffy.
So let's do low
Until it's mixed in.
It's getting pink.
Oh, it's gonna be such a pretty color. It's baby pink. I hope you can see. What we're gonna do probably off camera now is we're going to preheat the oven, get these in once they are doubled in size, which they're already getting there. We'll put them in the oven for 20 to 25 minutes, and we'll get back to you once they're out of the oven so we can frost them up and taste test.
Yes, exciting. I can't wait.
Yeah. All right. Okay. See you in a sec. Okay, they are out of the oven. They smell
Incredible.
delicious. We've got our frosting, and then we also have some lemon slices and raspberries to top it all up. So yeah, I think those were the main points from the book that we wanted to cover for today. We're going to cover the other 2 goals in a separate video. But overall, you know, for a start of the book, it was really nice. I like all the historic context that he gives and kind of the context with the Greek words. It's a more academic book, which is nice.
Yeah, it helps you to understand the Bible way more.
Yeah.
And it's been so far a good like reminder of just taking a break and thinking about how important your faith is and how important your relationship with Jesus is, and now we really need to actually take some action steps.
It's not as pretty as on Instagram.
We're trying our best here.
All right. Yes. Here is the finished product. I think next time I would add maybe some mint leaves or something to add to the decoration. It's not the best of my decoration.
We've done,
but
well, I haven't done better. Amanda surely has.
But what counts is the taste. So time for taste test.
Yes.
Let's
Moment
hope
of
it's
truth.
cooked.
Then
It seems cooked.
does it? It's giving doughy. I'm gonna have it still. It's been so good though. Okay, so I think that was it for today's video. We will be posting a continuation of our thoughts of the book probably next week, I think. Yes.
Yep.
If you're new here, again, we do post other type of book content as well. We have our monthly book club where we pick some fiction books and we review them, and then we also do TBR videos, and we have other content also on our TikTok and Instagram. If you have enjoyed this, then feel free to hit the like button or the subscribe button, or you can comment down below. And yeah, thank you for watching.
Thank you so much.
Bye.